Thanks for listening to the Swearing In podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In podcast starts right now.
Hello and welcome to the Swearing In podcast. I am your host, Marty Smith. Joining me today is Army Major Retired Ruslan Emelyanov. Ruslan was born and raised in the former Soviet Union. When he turned 18, he was conscripted into the Soviet Army in 1989 and chose to be a paratrooper. Over the next couple of years, he accepted an invitation to attend the newly formed Russian Military Academy. He graduated in 1995 and was commissioned as a lieutenant in the Russian Army. He had also just earned his Jumpmaster status at that time. His first assignment was to join his new unit already fighting in the First Chechen War. At the conclusion of the war, his unit redeployed in December 1996. Ruslan was then assigned to Moscow and transferred to the military police. In 1998, as a captain, he resigned his commission and left the Russian Army. Family relatives who lived in California applied for a green card for Ruslan, and in 2000, he joined his relatives in Carmel, California. When the September 11th attacks occurred in 2001, he contacted an Army recruiter about the possibility of joining the U.S. Army. The recruiter said he could enlist with a green card and signed him up as an 11 Bravo Infantry MOS. At 28, he attended basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. After graduating basic, he attended jump school and earned his U.S. parachute badge. His first assignment was to Bravo Company 235 Infantry at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. In 2003, he renounced his Russian citizenship and was sworn in as a U.S. citizen. In April 2004, his unit deployed to Afghanistan for a year tour. Upon returning, he was promoted to sergeant. He also earned Jumpmaster in the U.S. Army. A few years later, he was recommended for OCS at Fort Benning, and in 2007, he was commissioned a second lieutenant in the infantry. In 2009, Ruslan changed branches to civil affairs and spent the next 12 years working with Special Operations Forces out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He retired from the Army in 2023. Now, this concludes your pre-brief, so let's get on with the interview. Joining me today is Army Major Retired Ruslan Emelyanov. Sir, thanks for joining me today. You've spanned a lengthy career, but most importantly, you are the proud veteran of Bravo Company 235 Infantry Cacti. Correct?
I appreciate it, Marty. I appreciate it. And I see you already recording. Thanks for the invite, and my best regards to your audience, specifically Bravo 235.
Well,
hey, brothers.
We're looking forward to this ride. As we've previously talked, and we'll try to do it justice over the many things that you've done over those many years. It's amazing. It's amazing. So. Let's get into it. Now, you were born in Russia, raised in Soviet Union at that time, right? Soviet Union.
That's correct.
You never told me the city. Well, let me back up. Soviet Union at that time had conscription or mandatory service. So when you turned 18, you were conscripted in for 2 years into the infantry, correct?
That's correct. Every single male citizen of the Soviet Union had 2-year mandatory service.
And you had you didn't have a choice, but basically you had two branches, right? You had to go in the Army or you go in the Navy.
Well, Soviet Union also had Air Force and different branches, but let's say
But for conscriptees,
they have exactly the same structure like us, with multiple branches, but then we have Army, Navy, Air Force, and Border Patrol was actually, Department of KGB, which is Federal Service of Security or Homeland Security part. So, yeah.
But I guess I understood, or I thought I understood that maybe conscriptees didn't have much of a choice. I mean, I guess if you joined, you could try to choose one of the other branches, but you were either going Army or, well, Navy. I guess you could go to the other branches as well.
You understood me correctly, Marty. So, the conscripts would receive a official letter in the mail, with orders to report to the MAPs, and from that point on, MAPs will decide. Since this is not a voluntary service, we'll decide whether you're going to be a paratrooper, or you join the Navy, or you could be Air Force, and of course, most people would be separated by their family members if family members served for the Communist Party or they served in the Army. So again, government people had more trust. They just not affiliated people with the government service. So therefore, security clearance was part of that. Some of the conscripts had security clearance levels like RTOs, communication, or airfield, or if they had to do anything with guarding nuclear sites. So,
but you were, and in 1989, when you turned 18, is when they conscripted you, and you were lucky enough to go not only just the infantry, but be a paratrooper as well, right?
The Airborne Infantry, also known as a VDV, has a separate branch in the Russian Army, or Soviet Army at the time.
And I would imagine all those guys are what Hollywood makes movies about, because you're all tough, you're all big, you're all. You had to be a little bit tougher than the rest of the service to make it through some of that training, I would imagine.
And I wouldn't call it Hollywood, but the physical training was a very important part of being a paratrooper. Strict discipline, and of course, there's plenty of chauvinism regarding I'm an elite force. Just like in the U.S. Army,
same thing, right?
We look at those are legs, right?
Right,
so
leg infantry. Yes, that's right.
So that artificially infused pride was
it helps. It works. It works. You got to remember, I grew up in the 80s, just like you, and so our whole thing was, just a constant stream of movies with Dolph Lundgren looking guys. So that's what our view of Russians were. So
I remember watching those movies as well, and looking at Dolph Lundgren, it does look like a typical, I would say, Russian guy, perfect actor for that role.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But there was so many inconsistencies. The uniform is jacked up, or they don't do that.
Right.
But that again, this is for professionals to see those bloopers.
I had heard that of all those movies back then, right? Mm-hmm. That I think Hunt for Red October was like the closest accent-wise, which is kind of funny because you had a Scottish guy playing a Russian submarine commander, so that's kind of interesting. But I heard the language was the closest and the uniforms was the closest. I don't know if that's true, but I give it to Tom Clancy to probably get accuracy of the Soviet Union pretty correct. So
there's all. I remember watching, since every single guy in the U.S. Army was mentioning this classic movie called Red Dawn.
Oh yeah, Red Dawn.
So I had to watch that, and then it's like, oh, now I understand why. And my brothers are asking me those questions that actually don't make any sense. But
I know. They,
those were paratroopers. Yeah. I was so happy to see Red Dawn 2. That wasn't Russian paratroopers; those Chinese paratroopers.
Right. They changed the enemy. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
But that was the greatest thing about '80s movies because we had the Soviets, we had the Iranians, we had Libyans, we had great movie enemies. So,
You have to have those. Yeah.
so you go to your division. You never told me what the division was that you went to. Can you tell me that? Because MEPS chose airborne, infantry airborne, right? And then you go to your division or your unit, and they do basically your basic training. That's what you were telling me, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what that unit was that you went to?
Mm-hmm. So each division, there's multiple airborne divisions across Russia and back in Soviet Union. And each division has its own basic training schoolhouse where, well, it's in the name of basic training. So they teach basic skills, soldier skills to shoot weapons, simple land navigation, or anything you can imagine going through the U.S. Army basic training, but a little harsher, a little more disciplined, a little more
hands-on, if you will.
Hands-on. Yeah, you are absolutely right about the hands-on part.
Right.
Back in the day, they could physically punish.
Do you remember? Let me interrupt you right here. Do you remember the time that you got in the most trouble during that basic training?
Oh, Marty, as an infantryman, I got in trouble multiple times, but the most one, I would say the most one, and then the initial one was when drill instructor.
Yeah.
I guess I was slow or, not paying attention at my 100%. He kind of, pushed me and,
oh no.
Well, and I decided to fight back, which is absolutely fine during that time. If you are good enough to fight your drill instructor, the paratrooper, who at least has nearly 2 years in service, this is his last swan song.
Yeah.
Then you can do that. Well, wow. I lost quickly, but
But you at least you challenged, right? I mean, that had to count for something, I suppose. Right?
You have to have that spirit, if of an infantryman.
But then there's punishment that comes along with you turning around, right?
Well, the punishment was that I lost this fight, but nothing followed after that.
Oh, okay. So it was just settled right there.
It was settled right there. The NCO didn't go up to his chain of command to complain about me or anything.
Oh, that's
actually
nice.
He said, good try. Cool. He said, good try. And I see some potential for future leadership positions. That's what he said.
Wow. That would be interesting to have that dynamic, boy. That's amazing. So you get done with basic, a couple months worth of training, I think. And now you're in your unit. And what was the name of that unit? I mean, what was the Russian designation for it, or the Soviet designation for
it? Well, there's numbers for it, but I'd say it's Pskov Airborne Division, and it's located not too far from the Baltic states in the west of Russia.
All right.
So during that basic training where schoolhouse troopers have to go through those basic soldier skills to include two jumps, initial jumps before they report to their unit, which is co-located with brigades, battalions,
right,
and so on.
Right. How did you feel going through those jumps? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you trained well? I mean, what was your internal thing doing? Your internal feelings?
Internal feelings, of course, just like any paratrooper. No one was born
fearless.
Off of perfectly fine aircrafts, as we say. And of course, there's a sense of fear. And sometimes I thought I can't even control it. because first
yeah.
time jumping out of IL-76. Yeah. But, first jump, nobody understands what happened as long as you just land. The second jump, I think, was even more fearful to me because now I knew what's going to happen.
Oh, sure.
But,
Sure.
slowly, paratroopers understand how to steer their parachutes or how to land safely.
And
So,
not to jump ahead, but I mean, speaking of that beginnings of your jumping career, you eventually became a Jumpmaster later, right?
correct. The Russian Jumpmaster, normally people receive that Jumpmaster school slot identical to the U.S. Army. You have to have that leadership position in order to be a Jumpmaster. Not as harsh as the U.S. Army Jumpmaster School. Attention to details. Russians do it in different form. The JMPI, for instance, this is just one Jumpmaster inspecting one jumper and completes it. Goes all around 360 inspection.
Right.
In the Russian Army, you have multiple Jumpmasters that check specifically one specific part of equipment or a rig, so it goes faster.
I see.
The chuck. So kind of a mass inspection.
Yeah, it's more like an assembly line type of thing with multiple inspectors. Oh, that's interesting.
The first squad, the first Jumpmaster checked all their altimeters, and okay, first squad is done. 3 steps forward. Then the next Jumpmaster checks how their weapons are tied to their rig, and the third and fourth, and there's 5 stations before you 100% check.
That's interesting.
And then you load the aircraft.
That's interesting. Well, since we're talking about jumping, and we'll get back to where we were in your timeline. What was again, I'm going to draw on your memory here. What was the scariest jump you ever had? You ever get tangled in the lines? You ever bounce off anybody else? Your main not open. What would you say the hairiest jump you ever had was?
Yeah, the hairiest and funniest, right? So I had that one in Siberia.
Siberia.
It was winter in Siberia. That was later on in my career, already as a cadet, and so we had to jump. It was MI helicopter jump. Relatively, that's what we call Hollywood jump.
Oh, okay.
Without weapons or equipment. However, so I landed in snow. It was pretty deep.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that was the softest landing in my entire life. So I was happy, but the snow was so deep that I literally was covered.
Wow.
And then the next moment, there was tremendous force. My parachute pulled me out, yanked me out of that hole. And I was just like going with it on my back, on my face forward. And that was the scariest because I didn't have enough energy, I guess, because of the force of that snow going over my head while being dragged by the chute. I couldn't release my canopy.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember that was the scariest 100 meters I was dragged across the field because I was thinking, what if some farmer, that was a huge field, left his some equipment.
Oh, sure. And you get impaled by it or something. Yeah, you run into it.
Chance to hit my head against that. So, but that was the scariest. That was the scariest.
Wow.
And I had full pants of snow too. That was funny as well.
Well, I'm glad you were able to walk away from that. I'm glad it inadvertently dug yourself out of it. But it took you for a scary ride. Okay, so now you're done with basic training. You're in your unit, and your unit goes where?
We didn't go anywhere with that unit.
You didn't? Okay.
I didn't go anywhere combat or anything. That was Soviet Union, relatively there was not too many actions or any conflicts. Afghanistan was already over during that time.
That's right.
So the Soviet Union was already at the end of its existence. That was perestroika time with President Michael Gorbachev, who was the first and the last president of the Soviet Union. However, he has done a lot for, I guess, well, he hoped to change Soviet Union for better democracy. So that was the end of the Soviet Union. No wars. There was local conflicts.
Right.
Between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Small local conflicts in Baltic states, in Latvia specifically. But that was
really a relative time of peace for
the
old Soviet Union, the new Russian Federation, essentially, right?
That's right. That's right. So when the Soviet Union, so I served about a year of my time when the company commander approached me and said, well, I'm looking for a good, I was already a sergeant by that time, Jumpmaster.
Yeah, yeah.
And company commander asked me if I would be interested to become an officer and make a career out of my life. So I was interested. I loved the aspect of, and the glory of the paratroopers. So I thought for a little bit, and I said yes. Wow. In 1991, already a cadet.
And this was at the Russian Federation, the Russian Military Academy that they had just started, right?
Correct. So after Soviet Union collapsed, now it's a new country. It's called Russian Federation. So red flags of Soviet Union being removed and replaced with the Russian Federation current flag. It was new. Of course, we had old Soviet staff.
Yeah, sure. Everything.
They had to learn a lot of new tactics.
Army. That's right.
With the old equipment. So
that doctrine was pretty set for 40, 50 years, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, now tell me about your mental state, because when you get conscripted, did you think, I'll just do my 2 years and I'll get out? Or were you looking to say, hey, maybe I'll do a career in the military. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Well, what was your mindset? Because you're coming around 2 years here, right? When he comes down and asks if you'd like to be an officer, does that change things significantly, or were you already thinking, I'm just going to get out?
Well, Marty, to answer your questions, well, I don't think it was. Well, essentially, I didn't have a plan before I was conscripted.
Okay.
I didn't know exactly what university am I going to go to, or if I'm going to compete for those universities. But I always, inside of my soul, I wanted to be military.
Yes. Okay.
I was just thinking about maybe Navy or maybe the Army. So, but I always wanted to have that romantic life, with bits of danger, maybe travel. And so it was easy for me to say, yes, I would like to try the new Russian military academy.
Huh. Okay. So, I mean, so once you got in, it was just like, okay, this feels right. I'm doing well. You're already a sergeant within 2 years. And now they come and they recognize something in you and they say, hey, you want to go be an officer? And well, geez, I guess I will make this a career, because you're obviously comfortable in it. You're obviously good at it. So they send you in what, 91, 92 to the military academy?
91.
And that Russian military academy is equivalent to United States military academy, right? It's at least in prestige and consideration there, where they're really training you up as officers to come out and lead the next Russian army.
Mm-hmm. Well, unlike West Point, which is the major and historical building and of the United States, Russian army has different military academies for different branches, but the most prestigious was in Moscow. That was
oh wow.
I went to the academy in the city of Vladikavkaz, which is in North Ossetia, which is part of Russia. It was in the mountains. So
Yeah.
majority of officers that graduated from this military academy were specifically prepped for the war in Afghanistan because of the mountains areas of scouts, paratroopers, kinetic units, and officers were trained specifically in that southern branch of military.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. While you were there was you were telling me about the conflict, the short conflict, right? And I'm not going to try to pronounce the names of the cities that you were telling me, but it was to such a degree that they took cadets out to go. I don't know. What did you do as a cadet when you went to that theater?
We cadets at this time were just going through regular academic programs, physical programs. Everything is scheduled. When the conflict erupted, then of course the academic process was paused.
Oh, okay.
And majority of cadets were pulling guard security around the perimeter of this academy.
Wow.
And that was happening because two ethnically different people of Russian Federation, one Ossetian people, they're Christians, and then Ingush people, they're Sunni Muslims, were fighting over the territories.
Okay.
Right. As majority of wars happen over land. And it was so severe that villages were on fire. There was a lot of casualties by that time. Since the military academy cadets are, already proficient in their weapons and it's a different type of soldiers that the military district or garrison commander made a decision that we will secure some like airports and pull guard some government buildings. We would do that in order to stop the conflict or, have it secured by cadets or other federal services.
I see. So they weren't putting you on front lines, but they were having you guard important assets.
Well, we weren't fighting in the trenches, of course, against the enemy or anything even close to current conflict between Russia and Ukraine. It was more when we were attacked while guarding those. Right. Regarding those objects. Yeah, but it wasn't like fear fight with multiple casualties. It was just short firefights.
Yeah. Sure. There's kind of hit and run kind of things, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you do that kind of duty for?
It was about 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And then we returned back to the conflict was over. Ossetian people were supported by the Russian people, again, Christians majority.
Yeah.
And so that conflict was frozen.
I see. Yeah. All right. So were you relieved to get back to school? You're like, good. Let's get on.
We went back to school. We restarted our academic classes, physical training. And pretty soon the decision was made to send us all cadets from the Caucasus area. They sent us over to Siberia to a different branch academy where we
you did.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you up there in Siberia for?
2 years. For 2 years.
Oh,
and I graduated in 1995 in the Siberian branch of Russian military.
So again, going back to our American stereotypes, is Siberia everything that we stereotype it to be?
Well, the biggest stereotype is that people from Siberia don't get cold. That's not true. People just know how to layer their clothing, so they
Yeah,
don't.
right.
But yeah, Siberian climate resembles climate of Alaska, I would say.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you think about Siberia, think about Alaska.
Yeah,
That's
that makes a little bit more sense. I mean, every time they talk about Siberia, it's always a storm. It's always in the middle of the night. It's always everything's frozen. You're like, oh, geez, is it like that all the time? But Alaska is a better analogy. So,
yes.
In 1995, you finished school in Siberia, get commissioned a lieutenant.
As a first lieutenant.
Right. Were you a Jumpmaster at that time, or did you get a Jumpmaster after you get commissioned as a lieutenant?
No, I was already a Jumpmaster.
Yeah.
I was going through the Paratrooper Corps faculty.
How many times a week were you jumping?
This is an interesting thing. So Russian paratroopers back then were jumping. So the government will pay per jump. So the more you have, the more money it kind of, some people, specifically young lieutenants, were trying to get on every single jump because, they would get more money. So
you probably had waiting. You probably had to wait sometimes, right?
Yeah. So I would say at least once a week to answer your question, or sometimes twice a week.
Wow. What altitude were those jumps at? 2,000 feet, somewhere around there? Were they short jumps?
It's a little higher, really, depending on the aircraft. But IL-76 versus C-130.
Yeah.
They cruise at different speeds.
Oh, okay.
IL-76 I shouldn't be probably comparing with C-130. Maybe C7, Globemaster.
Bigger.
Yeah, so they fly faster, and therefore you need to do higher jumps. And there's also different specifics. The Russians don't have the static line as we could imagine on T10, T11, or even D6. MC6. No, MC6, because Russians have parachutes that was called D6.
Oh, okay.
That was closer to MC6 in the U.S. Army, with the difference that the Russian paratrooper would have two altimeters, one for the main chute and one for the reserve.
Wow.
So essentially, once Russian paratrooper jumps out, and they're literally riding each other.
Yeah, right. The mass jumps, yeah.
Mass jump. The paratrooper himself has to deploy after 3 seconds.
I see.
Deploy the main chute and disengage the altimeter in the reserve.
Yeah.
So the reason is there to, exactly the same. You don't have maybe a paratrooper lost his consciousness or something. Then
right.
Would open his chute.
Oh, so it'll automatically pop the chute at a certain altitude. Oh, that's nice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, when I went to jump school, it was like, that main don't open. You better start working on your reserve because you're, 1,700 feet we're jumping at. We weren't jumping that high, obviously, which you have familiarity more than I do. So
that is the longest 3 seconds because I think no one was pulling on his ring to open his main chute within 3 seconds. Normally it's like 2 seconds. That's max.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you commissioned in 1995. You're sent down to what unit was your first assignment at when you were a lieutenant? Who'd you go to?
Well, so in 1995, the Chechen War was already a thing and going. So my first assignment, with my luck, was Plus, I volunteered because I wanted to be a combat officer.
And they were all, and that unit was already in theater, right?
That unit, I received orders to go directly to Chechnya, which is outskirts of the capital city called Grozny. And so I was part of 205 Independent Infantry Brigade with multiple battalions. One of them was a recon battalion, also airborne unit. So the only airborne unit in the brigade.
What did you think? I mean, you're a brand new lieutenant. You've got several years in the Army already. I mean, you're familiar with the process, but you're not familiar with that unit, nor are you familiar with this theater of war. And you're a brand new lieutenant, and they stick you right there. Did you have some reservations? Did you have like, geez, I'm a little nervous about this, or does a Russian army not think that way?
Oh, well, Russian people are also people, and and of course, everyone is afraid to lose lives, even if they're professional military. So when I reported to my unit, the battalion commander, when I was a captain.
As a battalion commander,
a captain at lieutenant colonel's position.
Yeah,
so 2 grades lower than I would expect. I would be fine to see a major who's holding like a promotable status.
Sure.
To a commander's battalion, but I was a captain, promotable too. And then I've learned, which revealed one thing: a lot of officers were dying, and so they didn't have enough officers to fill those important positions as a commander.
Wow.
But I reported, and I took my first platoon, and I had pretty solid NCOs.
Oh, good. Yeah.
My NCOs were contractors.
What do you mean by that?
Those positions, platoon sergeant, and squad. I think I had 2 squad leaders. There are contractors. When I say contractors, those people who served their mandatory time and went home, and then during the War of Chechnya, they were recruited again for pay, for serious pay, to join the force. So those people were holding those leadership positions. And the rest of them were conscripts, enlisted members that were doing their 2-year mandatory service. Some of them had 6 months in service.
Yeah.
Some of them had a year.
Wow. God, that's a hell.
It's hard to see those men.
Yeah, for conscripts. Brutal couple of years there, obviously. But when it ended in 96, and you left the end of 96, or did you leave and then it ended? I can't remember.
The conflict, the war, first war in Chechnya, was ended by during Boris Yeltsin presidency, but specifically by General Alexander Lebed, who was, I think he was assassinated later in about 3 years. But he was the one. He was a very well-known general. He was a commanding officer for the 14th Airborne Division. That division was located in Republic of Moldova at that time.
Oh, Moldova. Okay.
So he, General Lebed, which is his swan song, he became a politician, and he was able, just because of his past, because he was distinguished general of elite force, then the Chechens actually listened to him, had respect for him, and the war ended in December of 1996. So we redeployed about 400 cliques up north to the Stavropol district or region, it's still in the Caucasus area, but a little up north.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where the brigade started building new barracks and quarters.
Oh, okay. Okay. You saw some action. You took some injuries that necessitated you to leave the infantry, correct?
Yeah. The Chechen War was just a massacre for a lot of people, and it is hard to go into details, Marty. And I
No,
hope you
and that's
understand.
no, that's what I'm not trying to.
I would say that I lost half of my company
Wow.
when I became. So I progressed within 2 years to the company commander.
Oh, you did. Sorry, I missed that part. Yeah, yeah.
On one of those occasions, I was during QRF. I had to support and save the police unit that was pinned down in the middle of Grozny. My QRF was sent to rescue them. We got into complex ambush, urban ambush.
Yeah.
And then I was wounded, and the next thing I remember, I was in a hospital.
Oh, okay.
I've been recognized as a hero for calling indirect fire on my positions.
Wow.
However, I wasn't a hero because I was just simply scared shitless.
Yeah.
And when you see your guys dying, I think it's a honorable thing to do anything to include, giving your life in order to save them. So indirect fire, friendly indirect fire on your positions.
Wow.
Was my last resort, and I don't think I've done anything heroic. It was just one way out.
Well, yeah, heroes always say that, but that's amazing. I mean, that's amazing. And you can look at it and say, well, you lost half your company, but you also saved half your company. I mean, there's a couple different ways to look at it, but it's tough for your perspective on what you saw and what you went through. Amazing. That's amazing.
Yes, Marty. So this burden I'm going to carry for the rest of my days. However, let me just expand a little bit what happened, and try to answer your question.
Okay.
Yes, with those wounds and injuries, I was moved up to Moscow to be deputy officer for one of the Moscow districts, which is MP. As a combat officer, I went on a couple of patrols in Moscow, and then I realized officers without pay were just looking for any opportunity to make money. Again, this is just the beginning of the Russian Federation. Perestroika, the war. It was a very hard time for regular people of Russia. So there's no people lived poor.
Yeah.
So Moscow at that time reminded me again from the movies, Chicago, and during Great Depression's time, it was
mafia.
Mafia was all over Russia. So officers, serving in the army wasn't the most prestigious position. But some officers were trying to, especially in Moscow region, because they were hoping to stay there and retire in Moscow. Better living conditions, I guess. They worked as security guards. They worked as cab drivers.
Just trying to make ends meet, right?
Yes. And to me, as a combat officer, I guess I was exposed to that bitter truth of civilian life. And I said, okay, I'm going to drop my packet to retire.
Wow.
Because I'm not going to be doing what they are doing, concurrently serving in the army.
Yeah.
And then also being a security guard. So
I can only imagine that the environment that they had to work in, that you had to work in, was rife with temptation of people trying to get like, hey, can you, if you work with us, we'll take care of you, and then. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden that's classic mafia stuff, right? I mean, you do us this favor and we'll protect you. If you don't do us this favor, I mean, I don't know if that happened or not. Well, but if you saw that would be very distasteful.
The decision behind my uh, or the reason why I dropped my packet was also because I could see those soldiers coming from war in Chechnya and being and going on those patrols with MP, checking on their documents. It wasn't just my job, because in every single soldier, I saw maybe, oh, is that my soldier?
Wow.
I couldn't give him
Right.
any warnings. Some of them, or even arresting for being drunk in public. So
Yeah.
it wasn't
Yeah.
my job at that time. So that was easy to drop my packet. So
Okay.
I've done my part.
So, and were you a captain in Chechnya when you took command, or
Yeah, my
did they make
last.
you one afterwards? Okay, so you were a
No, I
captain.
was a first lieutenant when I took command of my company.
Okay.
The captain rank came after I lost my company with the rank and
Yeah.
medals and all those awards, which
Yeah.
were covered in blood of my
Right.
my-
Right. So you got out in '98 as a captain, right? Now you're civilian Ruslan, and what what were your prospects there? What were you going to do?
The initial transition was, again, as I mentioned before, Russian officers, especially paratroopers, they were looking for positions in security.
Oh, yeah, right.
I became head of, or a shift leader for the security detachment in one of the casinos in Moscow.
Okay.
So I was security of that joint, and that also. I've seen a lot of politicians. I've seen a lot of celebrities just spending so much money and just losing so much money, especially politicians, that I figured that, well, maybe when I was fighting for my country, the political elites were making money in order to gamble them out in this. So that helped me out to reach out to my, well, they actually reached out to me. On my mother's side, we always had relatives in California. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia and the United States of America were allies at this time. The United States of America came up as winners in that Cold War.
Well, sure.
So they filed documents for me. So I decided I received my green card. And
also, they put in that request? It wasn't you. They did. Oh,
family,
wow.
It was family unification program.
I got you. Yeah. I've heard of that.
So I received this green card that I had a choice: either just disregard it, or go with the process and see what America looks like. So
did you know that they were going to do this, or was this a surprise?
No, it wasn't. Well, initially it was a surprise to me.
Yeah. Because
my parents kept it during Soviet Union as a close secret, like families.
Yeah, sure.
We have relatives, having relatives in the United States during Cold War period.
Yeah, right.
Especially with my dad, who spent 25 years in Gulag.
Yeah,
that wouldn't look great for any career if just comfortable living conditions. So when Soviet Union collapsed, they had an opportunity to apply.
The timing was perfect. Yeah.
And I had this opportunity to take this opportunity. I had an option to take this opportunity or decline it.
Right.
Since there's so much work was already done, I decided to give it a shot. So
how long since you declined resigned your commission was it that you went to the U.S. with this?
2 years.
3 years?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, because I landed in San Francisco. It was a direct flight from Moscow, San Francisco.
Oh God, what a long flight! Jeez.
Yeah, you could smoke.
They.
And I landed in 2000 in San Francisco, and my relatives picked me up at the airport and drove me down to a city called Carmel. This is where my relatives live.
Carmel. Wow. Jeez.
Yeah,
Such. I
Carmel.
mean, from where you were to Carmel, right? And you said
Yeah.
that was your first picture of America. Your first taste of America was in one of the best parts of America.
Yes. So, of course, I was excited to see because all my knowledge about America would be limited to movies, again, Hollywood
Right.
movies,
Right.
and personal interests, kind of reading books. Again, the internet wasn't that
No. Right. Right.
um, that available. Cell phones were still kind of a new
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So I went to Carmel, and my first impression was, hey, this is how paradise looks.
No kidding.
And I wonder if all America looks like that, which I found out later when I was shipped out to basic training. That it wasn't true, but equally interesting and
Yeah. Right. Right.
beautiful.
The so you did a few jobs. Did you say you got there in 2000 or 2001?
In 2000.
2000. So
Yeah, in 2000.
so you worked a few jobs, cab driver, Target
Yeah.
supplier, right? Tow truck driver,
And direct
direct
TV.
TV installer. Yeah, yeah. But during those jobs, you learned English, you learned customs, you learned to interact, right?
Yes, I figured out that instead of just hanging out around other Russian-speaking groups,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that majority of people were cab drivers and everything what you listed before. Some handyman, truck drivers. Well, internally, I thought if I want to be part of this society,
Yeah. That's
then I
smart.
don't have to create little Russia somewhere and go and live in Brighton Beach
Right.
because those people don't speak, majority of them don't speak English. So I was against that. Like if I'm in America, I have to learn customs, language, everything in order to be part of this society as opposed to be separate. Uh,
Well, that
and
was
that's
the whole melting pot philosophy that we were supposed to have, that we've
well,
gotten
nowadays
away
the
from a
person
little
does,
bit.
but
But yeah,
thanks.
yeah. The what were there Russian groups? There were Russian groups around you that
I
you
would
could
say,
have been in.
yeah, Russian communities were like if you can find Russian community in any state of the United States, Russian speaking communities.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they're fine. Ukrainians and Russians talk, Belarusians, all former Soviet Union countries, republics. There's 15 of them. Uh, well, normally speak Russian.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I guess that's that's any ethnic group that comes over is going to have their group, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're working these jobs,
Mhm.
uh, not anything much with a future in it, but then the September 11th attack happens in 2001, right?
Yes, yes, sir. So during in between those positions, uh, I was also enrolling myself into English as a second language
Yeah.
course,
Oh
which
yeah, the ESL stuff. Yeah, yeah.
ESL, and that tremendously helped me out with my English. I started making friends, not within the program, but outside.
Oh, okay.
Neighbors, they started inviting me. So by the time the war started in September 11th, uh, I was relatively good speaking and already had multiple friends, some of them younger than me. And so when I saw them, my friends, younger guys, are going to the maps, I was like, I'm going to war, Ruslan. Are you coming
Wow.
with me?
Wow.
That to me, I sat for about 24 hours thinking about this stuff.
Did you?
And to me, it was okay. I left Russia and I thought I would never, ever put a uniform or have weapons in my hands again.
Right.
I was running away from war when a war actually found me even
Huh.
here in America.
That's a hell of a way to put that. Yeah.
And seeing those young guys going, uh, looking at their innocent faces and that simply want to go and protect their country. I thought that was my duty as a future citizen, and I said, I'm going with you, and I'm going to do my part as an American. And so I enlisted for 3 years.
What? And you're 28 at this time?
I was 28. Yeah.
28?
29, 28. Yeah.
I mean, you had to go down to the recruiter and go, oh, we're not going to take you with a green card, right? You still had a green card at that time, right?
I had a green card. And someone told me that because when I was talking to my friends, they said, Ruslan, they will take you even with your green card.
Oh, okay.
And I said, okay, well, that changes the course of action. So I went to MAPS, and that was my first question. Would you take me as a green card holder? He said, yes. I still remember his name. It was David Esparza, Sergeant First Class.
No kidding.
I said, wow. Well, there's an additional question I have, Sergeant. I'm a former Russian officer. And here's my diploma that I graduated in 1995. Would be that a barrier for me to join the service? I'm not looking for any officers or anything. Just, I want to do my part.
Right.
And he said, absolutely. We take, green card holders. You're a lawful resident of this country, so why not? You won't get any positions with security clearance.
Yeah, right.
You're going to be fine for 11 Bravo. What did you do in the Russian army? I said I was a paratrooper. I was like, yeah, that's exactly.
Look at this perfect fit.
So, perfect fit. And we have a bonus for you. So all you have to do is this. And then, I don't have to repeat. The process is well known for your audience. So I went through all of that, took my ASVAB.
Yeah.
All those tests. And the next thing, I was accepted as 11 Bravo with my future assignment to 25th ID.
And you did, you went off to basic at Benning, right?
Correct. Yes,
right away, was there any delay, or wasn't
No, they delayed me. They delayed me for about 2 or 3 months because I went to the MAPS in November, and then it took them a few months because it was Christmas break.
Oh yeah.
So I went. My ship out date was in February 19 or 18. And when I went to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia.
So what were you thinking? Did you know it wasn't going to be as tough as the training that you went through in Soviet Union or Russia? Or did you just like, hey, I'm still going to do my best? I'm 10 years older than most of these guys who've joined up, right?
Well, Marty, I wasn't nervous or anything. It was genuine interest. That's first.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was absolutely prepared for every single hardship or training part of it because I was somewhat trained up. And I was more excited as opposed to
your second time around, you get a whole fresh set of eyes at this thing.
I thought that was very interesting. The shark attack of drill sergeants. I guess I was expecting that drill sergeant to hit me, and I was ready to hit him back.
Oh, no kidding!
But none of them touched me. So interesting. Yeah.
They tap you with their hat, or could they even do that back then? I'm not even sure if they could do that.
I don't remember them doing that. No, they didn't tap me with the hat.
Well, you're an older man. I wonder if they knew your history. I wonder if they knew that. But
no, they didn't know my history at all.
They could see. I mean, you're not a small guy, and so all right, maybe he knows what he's doing, and I'm sure you did. So that probably they just go to somebody else that they can intimidate, I would imagine.
Yeah, it became obvious that they found out about my bio, or when Drill Sergeant Simmons, I remember.
You remember his name too.
Yeah, he called me in to his office, and I was a little. So what is this about? He said, "I'm just looking through your file, and I see that you graduated." And he said, with honors from the Russian Military Academy. I well, there was no reason, to hide anything.
Sure,
I said,
sure.
yes, Drill Sergeant, this is true. Did you go? So he asked me a series of those questions. Did you go to combat? And so I answered. To me, it was, and then all of a sudden, I guess that was a power trap or a trip or like something he wanted to establish his authorities.
Oh, no.
Are you proud of that? And he was,
Oh.
and I said, well, Drill Sergeant, I am proud of what I've done. And I'm looking forward to be proud of what I'm about to do. I said, okay, then I'm going to make you a student first sergeant in the company. So the next month or two, I had to be a student first sergeant with their understanding of cadences and
no, right.
But it worked at the end. I guess I did a pretty good job. He went to the CSM of our battalion, and they right before my graduation, they put me in a slot at the airborne school because I'm a former Russian paratrooper, so we're going to make him an American paratrooper.
So, we must say that your recruiter was able to put you in as an E4, right?
He initially put me as an E3.
Oh, an E3.
But
okay.
As an E3, while my diploma was sent by the MAPS to evaluation service located in New York, and they came up evaluating my diploma with the bachelor's degree in military science. So, what else can I do with that diploma, right?
Yeah. Well,
so from that point on, when I graduated as an E4, and then I received my little bonus too, and it was
nice.
It was about $500, not much, and then the back pay for the
rank, yeah,
for the rank, yeah.
What how just out of curiosity, how was the food compared to what you did in Russia?
Marty. Yeah, I remember I was thinking to myself, like, wow, if the Russian army had all this equipment and food, they would be 10 times more patriotic than
oh, no kidding. Really?
Yeah, it was absolutely. Well, to be honest, you would never see, well, during my time, like ice cream. This is something unheard of.
Yeah.
Real coffee? Are you kidding me?
Huh.
The food was simple. I mean, you would never have a steak. Or I remember it was a shocker to have surf and turf. Like, you have a steak and then you have some shrimp on the top. Wow, that was amazing. So, yeah, to answer your question,
wow,
I would say prison food would
really
would probably remind you of.
Well, and I don't mean to bash it. I mean, they had to do what they could do, but it is curious to see what the different conditions were like.
Luxury.
Wow.
In the U.S. Army, basic training.
Maybe we should do an exchange program to get some of these guys some perspective on their U.S. military time and go, look, could be worse. Could be worse. So, so after you graduate basic, you went to airborne school. Was it just airborne school before they sent you off to 25th Infantry Division?
It was just the airborne school, and upon completion, I went through there and flew down to Hawaii, reported my unit.
And that was Bravo Company 235 Infantry, right?
That was Bravo Company 235 Infantry. That's the company that stays really close to my heart.
Correct. So, and I was with, before they were, I got out in 98 from Schofield. I was way in the corner. I think it was F quad or something like that with the artillery out there. So, but you guys were what, C quad or
D quad?
D quad. Okay. D quad. So Bravo Company 235 Infantry Cacti, right across from the Wolfhounds. Yeah, I knew those guys very well because I always led the runs. And so you get out there as a 29-year-old E4, and now, hey, we're preparing to go to war again.
I was 30 by that time. As an
were you 30?
E4, already airborne qualified. Turns out nothing airborne or light was about 25th ID.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were light. Yeah.
Yeah, we started training. We didn't have orders yet to go to Afghanistan, but no, it was pretty intensive training.
Marching up there in the Kahukus, right? All that red.
Right.
Yeah.
It was multiple occasions when I realized that 25th ID is a great division. It's an infantry light division, although again, there's nothing light about it. I carried everything. We carried everything, plus
right.
mortar rounds in our rucksacks. Yeah, so and then I get to see during long 4-day weekends to see the beauty of the state. That was I was speechless. It was so beautiful.
It is beautiful, especially in certain areas you go to. Even if you want to take a day and go down to Honolulu or Waikiki and fight the Navy guys, even that's still pretty good looking. It's just so crowded. There's just so many people down there.
And this is how we became friends, fighting the Navy.
That's right.
The Marines. Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I think it was Sergeant at the time, Seth Rodenbaugh, who referred you to me because of your fellowship in the 235. So, but you didn't know him,
I appreciate
right?
Seth.
You didn't quite know him yet, right?
Telling me to your interview. Well, initially when I reported, regardless of me being 30 years old, Seth Rodenbaugh, along with other NCOs and senior soldiers, welcomed me. It was pretty warm welcome.
Oh, good.
And then straight, this is your room. I had to clean it up really well, and from previous tenants, and so PT tomorrow morning at 6:30. Don't be late. And I enjoyed every single day, but specifically about Seth Rodenbaugh, since he was on playing a senior role. I think it was 1 year in already, if not more. Already for his NCO rank. So I was my conversations with him were more kind of leader towards subordinate. We weren't friends right immediately, right off the bat, because we didn't know each other. But Afghanistan proved it different, and then we all became friends, especially second platoon out of Bravo Company 235.
So you immediately go into a deployment train up, right?
Yes, sir.
As soon as you got there, when did you actually deploy?
We deployed.
Notes.
Yeah, so we deployed in April. To be exact, on the 21st. So in 2 days, today is April 19th. In 2 days, will be exactly 20 years from the time that Bragg 235, with all my brothers, we deployed to Afghanistan, utilizing the World Airlines. Yeah, we flew in from Turkey to Kyrgyzstan, which is a former Soviet republic. It was hard also for me because my mother had a surgery that one of her legs were amputated due to the medical condition she had.
Oh, geez. During that whole time, golly.
So I had to, it was hard internally, but, I was surrounded by my brothers. Everybody was flying down to fight our enemy. This is how brotherhood starts.
That's true, and you have to balance that personal stuff with the job at hand and with the responsibility you have to your guy on your left and your right. Right.
You have to be strong to protect your people, your nation. So nation first, family second at that particular time.
But your mother came through it okay, even though she lost her leg. She was okay.
She lived, and later on, when I became an officer, I was receiving my security clearance, so I had to take my parents out of Russia,
Yeah.
and they arrived to America, specifically to Fort Benning, Georgia. They lived with me as my dependents.
Wow. Did they step into Georgia and go, this is named Georgia too? We got a Georgia over there. What's going on?
Well, they knew because they knew the difference, of course. But mother, she was paralyzed by that time, so she lasted for about a year, and she passed at Fort Benning. My father passed here at Fort Bragg, former Fort Bragg, currently Fort Liberty.
Yeah.
So both of my parents are resting here in North Carolina together as they wanted. And yeah.
Well, I hope you're able to ease their last couple of years by coming over here and seeing their son and seeing their, their family, their extended family here before they passed. I hope that's
they yes, they've seen. I used every opportunity to show them this wonderful country.
That's great.
As good, and I can say that both of my parents were thankful to me. And my dad actually, his last statement was that I'm finally dying free in a free country.
Wow.
And
wow.
Yeah. So
I don't know how we didn't say that last time, but that's an important thing right there. That's amazing. And you were able to give him that. That's amazing.
He became American citizen, so that it was very emotional for him too. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. That's wonderful. That's awesome. Okay, so you're setting foot in your third theater of war now, right? Or
correct.
Second?
This is my third. If you count my combat experience in as a cadet, it was a short combat experience. They trying to shoot at you, you shoot back. Kind of, it wasn't as extensive as Chechnya, where it was a massacre. And now I'm surrounded with my brothers and ours. We're on our way to Afghanistan. Nobody knew exactly what we would face. However, we're trained up. We knew just one concept. It's a matter of when we're going to be engaged in a fierce firefight.
You get in country to FOB Laban or
yeah,
did I pronounce that right?
FOB. Initially we arrived to
Lagman, right?
Lagman. Initially we've arrived to Kandahar airfield, spent there about a week, and then Bravo Company 235 was pushed out to Zabul province, where FOB Lagman was established by the 10th Mountain guys, I believe. And this is how we ended up in Lagman, lived in the tents. No showers initially. MREs, I think we had MREs for a month, if not more. No showers, so just a stretched parachute or just a tarp.
Yeah.
And you go ahead and find that
5-gallon water cans and
and if you're lucky, that can would not be used prior to your showers as a gas can, because that happened to me.
Oh, really? Jeez. What dummies putting gas in the water can? But I guess
Stuff happens.
I know. I've been in the Army too.
Mm-hmm.
What was the nature of your mission out there at Lagman? Were you doing like combat patrols or?
Right. Well, first of all, once we established our presence in that region, the long patrols, we have short patrols and long patrols, and of course, base defense, close work with other elements. We had a PRT, provincial reconstruction, some cell. We worked with local police. There was some units of Afghanistan National Army units.
So
the tasks was to long patrols looking for an enemy.
Oh, yeah. So kind of movement of contact stuff to search around and see what happens.
Right.
That's crazy. That's the same thing we did in Vietnam. It's amazing that we employed the same techniques. So, what? I don't know what. It's amazing. You stayed a year out there. Did you run into any multinational guys, or was it just all U.S.?
That deployment, I don't remember working with any multinational guys. Maybe at CAF there were some units, but since 11 Bravo Company were so tight, we sometimes conduct a joint patrol with ANA units, the Afghan guys,
Afghan Army,
Afghan Army. But I don't remember working with Aussies or any other units.
Okay, I wasn't sure how multinational it was.
Not at Lagman.
And you stayed the whole year at Lagman?
We stayed the whole year at Lagman. And within that year, it built tremendously. It's expanded.
Oh, it did.
So probably in a couple of, probably through the midterm, we already had nice showers.
Oh, you did? That had to be a big day.
Right. You still had a line,
Sure.
We had a DFAC.
Wow, they really built. I didn't realize that.
So initially, when we just arrived to this FOB Lagman, it was a small.
Yeah.
You could. It was the size of like HLZ helicopter landing form.
Yeah.
And then when I went there 10 years later, it was just enormous airfield. It was pretty big. I mean.
So were you filling HESCOs? Were you filling sandbags? Were you doing a lot of that?
We already had initial HESCOs. We didn't fill them up ourselves. 11 Bravo tries to stay away from that. The engineers did that for us.
Good.
But we did help out to improve our, living quarters and fighting positions.
Other than probably the action that you saw, what was one of your more memorable moments out there at Lagman with 235?
We had quite a few IEDs and a few short firefights. The most nerve-wracking was now I'm a little shaky with the dates, but it was already in. It was still probably around November, October timeframe when our convoy was hit right outside of our gates.
Yeah.
And then we nearly lost a good friend of mine and Bravo Company 235. And Seth Rodenbach was part of it. So
now he told me a story about how he always got in a wreck every time he drove. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but something always happened to his vehicle whenever he drove.
He was part of that. He witnessed, and I believe he was part of that vehicle too.
Yeah.
That was blown up by the IED outside of our gates. So he probably knows the details. I was in the first vehicle.
Oh, you were.
So I managed to roll it over, and the second vehicle was hit. So that was the most memorable.
Well, let's change the mood there. What was the biggest laugh you had during FOB Lagman time? And man, you got other cacti listening, so they're gonna.
Of course, I would say we had in any dangerous situation, 11 Bravo guys, those grunts, they'll find ways to make it fun.
Sure.
Even if even after the firefight, you have to have that cope mechanism to deal with stress and of course we're telling jokes, we're just I don't know, playing cards, working out,
pranking each other.
Of opportunities to sit down, but the majority of that was long patrols, and we're busy constantly and on a daily basis.
Right. So you return a year later, 2005. You get back. right?
We came back to Hawaii exactly 1 year later. So that's again April of 05. Yeah.
Oh, tell me what was Christmas in Afghanistan like?
For some reason, Marty, I just don't remember anything.
They didn't try to put a big meal together for you
Yeah,
guys, or
because we're still in the middle of surrounded by
yeah,
enemy. Yeah.
right.
So I guess we did have something nice for Christmas dinner, but at the same time we didn't have like a Christmas party or
Right.
anything of that nature. Yeah, it
Yeah, I
was
mean
nice.
you're still on semi-alert all the time, right?
Right. Well,
So,
not even semi. I would say we're fully alert at all the time because we're also in charge of the base security. So people
oh
were
yeah,
holding guard on towers,
yeah,
people conducting short patrols, and then foot patrols
right.
around our base, and then long patrols, armored patrols.
Did you have random fire coming in the FOB?
That was multiple times.
Yeah.
We had also outposts
Oh
uh,
yeah,
and in the area of Deschapin. Uh, our guys, the element, I think that was a squad element, assisting SF guys in that area. They were hit by rockets and some indirect fire. That was their first baptized by fire
yeah,
experience.
yeah. Well, um, you get back in April 2005. You're back at Schofield Barracks. Mhm. You told me you got recommended for sergeant. You passed the boards and all the tests, so they promote you to E5 now. Now you're a sergeant. And
Yes, and fire team leader,
yeah,
along with other brothers that decided to stay longer.
yeah.
Yeah, so
What?
we're NCOs.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
So multiple of us became NCOs, and now we're receiving new guys, fresh guys out of basic training also,
Oh, that's right.
and start training them up. So
Did they
and
still have? Did they still have NCO club, or did they do away with all ranks club by that time?
we always had NCO club, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The question was like, did we have time to go to an NCO
Yeah.
club?
Well. Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
But you had an officer recommend you for OCS, correct?
I was yes, Marty. During my deployment, and even after this deployment, two commanders. Captain Moyes was my initial commander. We built pretty good, trusted relationship with him. He knew that I was a former Russian officer and went to Chechnya, and a few times he would invite me to kind of, to have a conversation about tactical level or how to
Interesting.
save troops or what's the difference, because now we're dealing with irregular warfighters, right?
Yeah.
And IEDs and stuff, and that built pretty good relationship between me as a specialist and him as a captain. So I guess he also followed about my background with the new incoming commander, Captain Brown, and he was the one recommending me for the officer candidate school. I dropped my packet, and pretty soon I was on my way to Fort Benning again,
Wow.
while the rest of my guys went to Iraq.
So,
They left
2002.
me a couple of, yeah. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I stepped right all over you there. But 2007, you go to OCS and they go to Iraq. So a year, almost 2 years apart, they get another deployment over to Iraq, right?
I believe they went to Iraq in 06,
Oh, 06.
as
Okay.
well as I went and reported to Fort Benning.
Oh, they kept you back because the school was starting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I had to wait until my class starts, which took about a month or maybe two. And then I graduated from OCS in August of 2007.
You graduate from OCS. You're commissioned a lieutenant in the infantry, 11 Bravo or 11 Lieutenant.
Okay.
You go to infantry officer basic course at Benning, right?
Yes, sir.
You got to go to air assault, Pathfinder course after that. So you just kind of did the whole next year as schools.
And that was important. And I found that was even better for my career because I was already airborne qualified.
Yeah.
And going through BOLIC, basic officer leadership course, followed by the infantry officer leadership course. During those two schools, we had periods of time where lieutenant could pick and choose. Of course, that was a order of merit where you can go to air assault school or Pathfinder if you're good with math and sniper employment class. And there's multiple schools like javelin operator.
Wow.
And I took advantage of that. So, and I was getting ready for the Ranger School at the end of that. So,
oh, you were,
but I was getting ready for it.
Yeah.
So, and right before my graduation from IOBC, first sergeant called me in, and his question just threw me off. He said, "Since when you were on P3 profile?" And I said, "Well, I never been on profile. What are you talking about?" So essentially, because of those, I lost. I couldn't pass my hearing test.
Oh.
And they pushed me for some advanced hearing tests and identified this is, TBI related. I lost 50% of my hearing, left side. So, and I was not meeting retention criteria, medical retention criteria to be in combat arms. So right before my graduation, they pushed me for a medical retention board.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And medical retention board, of course, I was shocked because I was like, well,
yeah,
everything is going to end here. But luckily, the president of that medical board was my former battalion commander, Colonel Browder, who was the president of the board. I don't know how exactly he ended up at Fort Benning to my...
wow, yeah.
But he told me to do about face and spoke after the board. He said, "Ruslan, you need to change your MOS from combat arms to something else."
Yeah, so we're not going to kick you out, but you can't stay in combat arms.
Right. So, and I went to, and I was driving home. And of course, I was kind of mentally destroyed.
Yeah.
What do I do? And then I've seen that poster on the side of the road. And it says Special Operation Forces, Civil Affairs, and Psychological Operations, and SF, with SF being combat arms and two other branches not. So I decided to go and attend their brief. And it was a very quick decision for the Civil Affairs to grab me immediately because I explained them that I'm an infantry officer, but I can't stay in combat arms. And what are you going to do? So Civil Affairs took me immediately and took control of it.
Wow, that's awesome.
I've done my part as an infantry officer at Sand Hill, Fort Benning, which is basic training that I went through years prior. And that's where I've done my infantry part. And then Civil Affairs took over from that point.
Basic training with the House of Pain company, right?
Yeah, that was... well, actually, I went through 258 Battalion, also known as a House of Pain.
Oh, okay. It was a battalion.
But as an XO and commander, I was in Fox Company 219.
Oh, all right. So Civil Affairs. So now you're a captain. You're switching over to Civil Affairs. Where do they send you for Civil Affairs school? Was
it? Once they have control of you as an officer, they send me to Captain's Career Course. which was at Fort Benning again.
Oh, jeez, it was? I had no idea.
Yeah, maneuver captain's career course. And immediately after I graduated, which was a long school for about more than 6 months.
Yeah.
I think it was about 10 months. And after that, after I graduated, I had to report to civil affairs. The civil affairs immediately sends me to SEER school.
SEER school?
SEER school.
Wow.
So I'm PCS into Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
Where I have to go through SEER school, and then I have to go through CA selection. And if I get selected, then
I had no idea they had that requirement to come into civil affairs.
Well, the SEER school was not a requirement. It was they look at your records.
Yeah.
And if they have an open slot at the school, they push you through SEER school, kind of offer it to you before you go through the actual selection.
Oh, okay.
I decided to go to SEER first and then through selection second.
How'd you like the POW portion?
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, as a matter of fact, later on in my career, I became an instructor in the same
school. You did?
Right. And actually helped out them for 6 months, but decided not to work in that capacity anymore because they can't fight back. If you remember my story in the Russian basic training.
Right. Did they put you in the box with the baby crying and all that?
Right. So, so I went through selection, was selected, followed by civil affairs qualification course, CAQC, which is also a very long course. They fast forwarded me for foreign language because I could speak Russian and
great.
And Ukrainian. So I was fast forwarded to and reported to my unit.
Geez, what a perfect fit, unintentionally, that they found you and you found them. I mean, my goodness, you bring a lot to the table for what they're looking for.
Well, I hope they feel the same after 12 years I spent with them. Yeah.
What was your first assignment as a civil affairs officer? Or did you just stay at Bragg? Because of SOF, right?
Right. Since that point, I actually stayed at Fort Bragg for the next 12 years until last year. Multiple operational deployments in SOCUR, UCOM AOR, under the Special Operation Command Europe, and a few combat deployments. One of them to Afghanistan as a CA officer.
And that was where you went back. You went back to Lagman 10 years later.
Right. No. Well, actually, this time I went to CAF, and I worked with the Aussies. I was an advisor to the Corps commander, the general.
Wow.
And who also spoke Russian. So you can imagine we immediately built this, we built this good rapport. And so everything was accomplished very fast and easy on our American behalf. And
well, you got a naturalized American, former Russian, speaking Russian to make it easier for the Americans. That's I don't think I could say that again if I tried.
It's a melting pot. The diversity of society, and in a diversity of armed forces of America.
Yeah.
That actually, I think, is the propellant force to our progress and mission accomplishments.
Huh. So, when did you get promoted to major?
I was promoted to major while I was already a student at the National Defense University here at Fort Bragg in 2018.
2018. So, oh geez, yeah, that was a while. So, what happened that led to you retiring?
So I guess it was also unexpected to me, just like with that story with the first sergeant who said that I had to reclass. Well, I guess all those injuries and wounds progressed to with my medical condition, which is TBIs. The Afghanistan, the most memorable part outside of Fob Lagman. Well, I was blown up quite a few times after,
Oh, you were.
and
Jeez.
so all of that, I guess, uh, the TBI progressed, and neurology doctor kind of gave me an ultimatum that I'm going to submit your packet for separation, medical separation, which
Yeah.
happened. Luckily, I already had 20 years in service, so there was a medical separation with the DOD pension combined.
Wow. What year did you retire? 22?
23, 23.
Oh, 23. Oh, geez.
Last year.
Golly. And you've been going stir crazy ever since. No, I'm just kidding. Was it an easy transition for you? How was it? How did your family take it? I mean, obviously you still want to serve. I mean, geez, you've had a it's like you had a calling and you fulfilled your life's calling, even when you didn't want to. It found you again, like you said, and the amount of men that you helped, hopefully offsets your losses. But mentally, is it easy to get out? Is it hard to get out? Is your family glad you're home?
Hmm. Well, it's a multi-dimensional
Yes.
question you inserted in there, Marty. So, as far as family is happy when I'm home.
Yeah.
As far as my emotional stance, thinking that I could have done more, yes.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it was hard. But also, you understand as a field grade officer that you are 50 years old. There's younger people that are
Yeah.
breathing in your neck, and you have to have uh, like moral values instead of being self-centered to step over and do the right and left seat.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
young officer who takes over, especially when medically you cannot continue your service. But yes, the overarching question you probably have brewing in your mind is, if America calls me again, I'll be more than happy to join and do my part. Because as a professional military, I think this is an honorable thing to do until the very last breath you take.
Well, and you've done it most of your life, and you've done it well.
Yes.
Um, and I understand the frustration because I know you don't feel like you're done giving, and leading these other people, and hopefully you can find your way into maybe instructing some of these young guys. I don't know.
I thought about it, Marty, and it's been a year since I'm not even looking for a job. Although there's plenty of opportunities and offers,
Yeah.
uh, I decided to put 100% emphasis of my daughter, who's about to join college or go to college, uh, take some time to see
Right.
the country,
Right. Right.
and just I went to all American trip all over the United States.
Did you really? Yeah.
I did just to see what country I was protecting and fighting for.
Yeah.
What's my new country? I want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since I took that trip, I simply can't get enough of that, and I'm constantly going somewhere for
Oh,
small
that's good. Yeah.
camping trips with good friends and my brothers that also reside here and retired here at Fort Bragg
Well, you
area.
just got back from one, right? For a short one, right?
We just did. That was my brother Mark and brother Brandon. Master Sergeant retired and a CSM retired.
Golly, man, that's wonderful.
We
Uh,
always invite all of Bravo Company 235 to join us on those trips.
do you guys get together annually at all, or biannually, or every 5 years, or something like that?
We actually, yes, we do talk to each other. We there's plenty of humor. We know each other. We would like to keep to keep this connection going. Trying to help each other out with different sources, with sharing stories, sharing simple pictures of that time when all of us went to majority of us are civilians now or retired people. Lots of people still working and instructing. But I think this this is priceless when you have your brothers doing well. And there's something special about Bravo Company 235 and why we're still maintaining this relationship. Maybe because we're still young and faced the enemy, deployed together and faced the enemy shoulder to shoulder. I guess that is a very strong feeling to all of us. But yes, we do have reunions. We try to have them annually. Last one we had in September of 2023.
Ah, nice.
And this time we're planning to have one in Tennessee, in Nashville area. One of our brothers, Eric, is planning. He's an action officer for this. So hopefully more people. Yes.
Well, because you got out as a major, they didn't make you. Oh, okay. You're highest ranking now. You got to go do this, right?
Oh well, I had my heavy lifting during the first.
All right.
First reunion. That was my initiative, and then brothers then jumped to help me out, so we made it happen.
Of course, a good officer always delegates that out and trusts his subordinates to go take care of it, right?
Oh, well, Marty, I'm not the typical officer, and I'm not a manager.
You're
I'm
a doer. Yeah, you're a doer.
More like a team member who is not afraid of getting his hands dirty and help out. Anyway. So.
Okay. Let me give you a couple opportunities here, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and I apologize for that because it just occurred to me to ask you this. What would you tell? I know maybe you already said this, but I want to know, what would you say to your daughter? What would you say to your brothers at Bravo 235? And what would you say to your future family members who might see Grandpa on there?
I have 3 groups of audiences here that are extremely close to me personally. Yes. To my daughters, I would say that I've done everything what I could as a father and as a warrior to secure their freedom and a way of life in America. So please use all those opportunities and become those citizens that, well, they are citizens, but become those people that I'm endlessly proud of. To my brothers in arms, I want them to live long life. I want them to be proud of everything that they've done for their country, and constantly keep why you are so proud to be an American. That is important, and stay together no matter what. That's to my brothers in arms. And what was the third category? The future?
Your future family.
My future family.
Your descendants, put it that way, your descendants.
Yeah. For my descendants, there's only one message. Look forward. Remember what your forefathers, your grandmothers, and father and mother has done for you in America. And keep it going. Do more. Make it better every day. As a citizen, as a human. And that will make America great again. Just hard work will
that
make
is awesome. That retired Army Major Ruslan Emelyanov. It's been an absolute privilege to talk to you today and an honor to get your story. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you for inviting me here. Again, my best wishes to your audience and to my brothers in arms and Bravo Company 235. And thank you for everything what you're doing, Marty. The pleasure is mine.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being on. On behalf of Major Emelyanov, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please leave a like and a comment and share the podcast with someone else. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service origin stories. So until next time, Fallout!